So once again, everyone, welcome to Charity Cultural Services Center's college application presentation. So my name is Gabby and my pronouns are she, her. I'm Families in Transitions Program Coordinator, and I'm joined today by CCSC's Associate Director, Ms. Cecilia Liang.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Cecilia Liang, and I'm the Associate Director from Charity Cultural Services Center. And welcome to our first workshops in the school years. And we will have more workshops with different topics coming up through the year, and also the volunteer opportunities. So I hope if you're interested in it, you can stay to the end, and Gabby will give more introduction on all the services and activities our program provided. Thank you so much. Thank you for your attending.
All right, thank you, Ms. Cecilia. So going to our next slide. I'm just going to briefly go over the agenda for today. So first going to do introductions. I'm going to quickly explain the Jamboard, which is a tool that we're going to use to use and conduct our Q&A. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to the college app presentation, then take a 5-minute break around like after 1 p.m., probably around 1:15, 1:20. And then we're going to have a Q&A session for about 30 minutes, or hopefully as long as time allows, and then closing remarks around 2 p.m. So just to give an introduction to our organization, we are Charity Cultural Services Center. We're a nonprofit in Chinatown that provides adult job training programs, elementary and high school after-school programs, and more for underserved communities of primarily AAPI immigrant backgrounds here in San Francisco. And so these are pictures from our adult culinary, bartending, and construction programs. And these are pictures from our Families in Transition program, which is the name for our after-school programs. So for our elementary school kids, which you can see pictured here, we offer a free K-5 English tutoring program over Zoom throughout the school year, and also a summer camp that's run by SF high school volunteers. And this presentation today, as Ms. Cecilia mentioned, actually kicks off our year-long programming for high schoolers and our scholarship program. So we're going to be offering different informational or skill-building workshops, volunteer opportunities, cultural enrichment, and social events throughout the fall and spring. And these workshops and community events are actually open to all interested high schoolers, although there may be a limit to how many can actually attend. But they're also a part of our greater scholarship program. So we're offering up to $400 scholarships to 9 to 12 graders who register with us and commit to attending 5 or more workshops and 3 volunteer events with us by June 2023. So this scholarship is typically awarded for students who come from an AAPI immigrant background and come from a low-income household. And I'm going to talk about this more and how you can sign up after the presentation, so stay tuned if you're interested. And I also want to quickly mention that we're going to have a second workshop this October, or a volunteer event, which is our Halloween baking class and volunteer event on Sunday, October 23 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. where we'll be learning how to make Halloween-themed pastries from our talented pastry chef that will be passed out to local children's centers here in SF. I'm also going to be setting out this flyer and sign-up form after the presentation as well. So just to quickly explain our Q&A session, so how we're going to do questions today is through 2 ways. First, if you have like a short question or clarifying question, you can raise your hand in the Zoom, or you can send it in the chat, and then I will then just ask our speaker to pause so that you can either unmute and ask your question, or I can ask your question for you in the chat. Otherwise, if you have maybe a more specific or longer question that you'd like everybody in the group to hear, please save it for the Q&A session after the presentation. Sorry if you hear the background noise going on. But to make this a bit more interactive, we're going to conduct the Q&A using a Google Jamboard, which I'm going to explain. So a Google Jamboard is basically an online flashcard tool that everyone can edit and use at the same time. So I'm gonna drop this link in the chat. So if everyone can click on the link, it'll lead you to this Jamboard where you can write down all of your questions for the session. So basically, please keep this link open. And if you have a question, you can write it down here and I'll show you how. So you click this sticky note icon on the left, then you're able to type in your question here and choose whichever color you want for it. You click save, and then you should be able to move your sticky note with your question around the Jamboard. And you're gonna have 3 cards to put your questions on, but I can also add more if there are more questions. So just go ahead and put your questions on here, keep this link open, and then we're gonna be using this for a Q&A session later. So if you're struggling to figure it out or you would like me to write your question, just chat me privately in Zoom and I'll write your question out for you. And lastly, if you have any private question or concern at any point during the presentation today, you can also just privately chat me to let me know and I'll do my best to answer. And so without further ado, I'll go back to presentation. I'd like to introduce our wonderful speaker for today. So I've shared a bit about her background on our flyer and sign up form, but I'm very excited to share that she was actually my former college counselor when I was a high school student at St. Ignatius College Prep in the Sunset District. Our speaker has not only encouraged me along my own academic journey, she's truly one of the most hardworking persons I know, who has helped so many Bay Area students with achieving their goals and accessing equitable college opportunities throughout the years. She's an amazing student mentor and hero. I'd like to please welcome Ms. Ana Maria Vaccaro to start her presentation, and I'll stop sharing mine.
Hello, everybody. So great to see all you guys. What an honor, what an honor. But I think the really hardworking people are you guys because it's Saturday afternoon and you decided to hang out with me. So let's make sure it's useful and ready. And then we're going to start the show in a second. So give me a moment. I'm going to share my screen. And again, please ask any questions. I love questions. It's all about you. It's all about you. And just to let you know, in my 30 years of doing this, I've been honored to work with amazing students and colleagues from UC Berkeley, UCSF, graduate program for their medical school, Skyline College, Thurgood Marshall. Yes, I see you SFUSD kids, ICA, and then currently St. Ignatius. And then I also do some great work with the wonderful students at First T of San Francisco, which is the CBO program here. But we're not here about me, we're here about you. So this is about information about the changes and also pathways for colleges. But there's so many, right? And there are a lot. And so hopefully we could demystify it, raise some questions, and then raise some great opportunities for you. So I just want to let you know, there are resources out there. There are a lot of resources, and we're going to kind of play with some of them right now. So your tax dollars that your parents pay for already do some of these type of different programs. So let's look at some of the government ones. So right here, you're going to see here is College Scorecard. What is this? This is a tool that you could search for schools, but let's just say you didn't know much regarding about the new school UC Merced. So I type in Merced on here. Boom, I see all the schools related to her. This is free information for you guys. And then right here, you will see, okay, it's rural. What does rural mean? There's not much around, basically, okay? That it's a public institution, it's medium-sized school, and it gives you graduation rate, average salary, right? Starting, right? So average salary that students get after they graduate. How much are some students paying? So some are paying more, some are definitely paying less. So the UCs are really great schools for financial assistance. It'll also show you different types of majors and programs. So whether you are a senior trying to finalize your list, making sure that everything's great, understanding the costs of a school, this gives you an idea, like if my family makes this much money, how much would I be expected to pay out of pocket, not including loans, or if I make this much, right? There's different other tools here. We talked about graduation rate, but did we talk about the happy factor retention rate? 85%, not too bad considering one selective school called Stanford is just about 90%. So a lot of students tend to stay there. We want to make sure they come back sophomore year. Here talks to you about the debt of a school, right? You want to make sure you're as least debt-free after college, right? So that you can be a homeowner. Yes, that's so important, right? So you don't have any bills. And then we're going to talk about strategies how to reduce that debt as well. A lot of information, right? And then also diversity is really important, right? Geographically, how many people are residentially being there, right? Based on socioeconomic diversity, right? This is the amount of students who are considered Pell eligible. That means their family has a certain income that the government considers low. That's how many students attend at this UC Merced. And then here breaks down the ethnicity of the students. This is not my title, but it's the government's title. But this means basically for here is like international students. These are basically international. And then there's the acceptance rate, right? You got to make sure you have those likely schools. So UC Merced could be that 85%. It's fairly high, but there are some schools a lot lower. And then we'll talk a little bit about testing. And the testing part, I really want you to take your notes, even if it's on your cell phone, because there's going to be a different answer for each grade level, and it's probably not what you think, okay? So that's one of the many tools that the government does provide, and it's accurate. But one thing you have to remember, when you're looking at that information for acceptance rate, anytime you see an average, it's 3 years old data. 3 years old data. So you always want to check with the college. So we talked about UCs. Some of you may be familiar with that, but a lot of times students forget to go to the college websites, even if you're a senior, right? Or juniors or sophomores. So let's pick a school like UC Santa Barbara. A lot of times people just look at pictures or listen to what people are talking about the campus. So we're going to go jump on UC Santa Barbara's website, right? And check what information's on here. What a lot of times students forget is they wait too late to find out what are the requirements of getting into the schools. Every campus is a little bit different. And then you may think, well, all the UCs are the same. No, UC Irvine admits by major, very different from other schools that do things a lot differently, right? So that's something that's really important to know. But some of the colleges have their own resources, videos, tutorials on the application. Why did I pick UC Santa Barbara? They're one of the best ones. They give a lot of great information, but that's one of the sites that a lot of students kind of overlook and not do. But what's something else that I know you probably looked at this morning? I'm going to skip this. I'll go back to it in a minute. We're talking about social media. Of course, we're talking about social media. Now, you may not feel comfortable sharing your social media account with the college or following them, but you could create one, right? It could be, Cultural College. That could be your handle for your Instagram or TikTok. More colleges have Instagram, all have Twitter. Very few have TikTok, but some do. Some are hip. But look at here at UCLA, where they give you tips. Or if you're thinking about transferring, they have transferring Thursdays. You get RSVP for open houses. That's virtual. That's a thing from the pandemic. Now you have in-person and you have virtual opportunities. So I don't know about you, but when I went to college, so I should have mentioned to you, I am first gen, and we did not know anything except to work hard. That's the only message. And the first day I went to college, it was the first day I visited my college, right? So, but now that's not, as long as you have the internet where you can look at it, there's so many opportunities, and you should follow them. And also the clubs and programs, not just like the admission pages. So that's something for any grade level, for any parent to do. But this is the one that a lot of people forget, college reps. So every college is going to look at your application, and they will read everything on your application. Now, for colleges like UCs and Cal States that don't take letter recommendations, or there's a group of people reading your application, they're not going to be that one person deciding if you get in or waitlisted, which means they like you, but we're going to see they have spaces for you. So maybe you'll get in, or they'll deny you. But for majority of other colleges, specifically not public schools, it is a person that's going to advocate for your application. So literally, and I do want to introduce some schools that you may not know of. So this is Clark University. Clark University is a medium-sized campus in wonderful Massachusetts. It's just 45 minutes outside of Boston. And here you can see there's a lot of resources like request information, doing campus visits. Here's the key thing, find your counselor, because that counselor can also nominate you for scholarships. And though I say private, that should not scare you, because later I'm going to tell you there are some private schools, not all, but a lot of private schools could be even cheaper than a UC or Cal State as well too. And this is not the hardest one. A lot of people just think of the Ivy Leagues or Stanford or Johns Hopkins. And there are great schools and they will meet the financial aid, but you also want to have a list of schools that are not just only super hard. There's some schools you have to remember that are 200 years older than California, the state. They have a lot of endowment and money and opportunities. So what you do is you just could put in your state, right? Good old California, right? And then let's say I put down Lincoln High School, right? And then what they'll do is they'll go find, if my internet wants to work right now, they'll find you the college rep for you. So they'll give you contact for that person's information where you can email them. Sometimes your school will go reach out to you. So boom, there you go. You see their email to you where they can go and reach out. Some private schools actually have reps in the area, even some out-of-state public schools do. So that's a great opportunity that is overlooked so much for the colleges. So, and you don't have to start junior year, which a lot of people think is a myth. I cannot tell you, I went to a conference with all the colleges in the nation, and you know what they said? Start early. That's the key thing they've been saying, is start early. And it's not a lot of times when they do visit at my high school, they say, hey, there are any 9th or 10th graders. So do not wait. All right. I don't know if you played this game. I did when I was super little, many moons ago, called the telephone game, right? Literally, you know, when you're with your buddies and you said, hey, did you hear? And then if that friend says that same information to the next friend, and then the next friend, and the next friend, you're going to have probably 95% chance wrong information. That's totally different. One thing I tell even my own students that I work with, trust what is in black and white, or trust what the college is. If there's a question that I'm not sure about, I'll go on the phone with my student, put the college on speakerphone. You could also call the college, but check what's in black and white or what the colleges want. It doesn't matter what everyone else is saying or thinking, because they're not making the final decision. It's that college, that university that is. So please be careful about when people play on the telephone game or just doing everything by hearsay. All right, but now we need to go into the nitty gritty, the real hard stuff. And it's not blank, but we're gonna kind of look at things like courses and A to G lists. This is about stuff you need to know, whether you're a 9th, 10th, 11th, or 12th grader, activities and next steps, right? So these are different things that all the colleges are looking for admissions, whether it's a UC, a Cal State, a private school, if it's an out-of-state public university like University of Oregon, if it's an Ivy League like Harvard, Yale, those super selective schools like Johns Hopkins, they're going to look at all this information. You may go, this is too much, this is too fast. Don't worry, we're going to break it down all together, okay? So let's talk about the grades and A to G. One thing that's really important to be aware of when you're looking at a lot of your courses is your ability of who you are. It's really important to own up that, hey, this is what I can do. I don't have to be like that next person or like my older brother or younger sister, I need to be the best in my own ability, but also challenge myself, right? And what do I mean by that? So let's look at one school's graduation requirements, right? You may think like, I know this is simple, right? So this is one of our local schools here in San Francisco. And what colleges are looking at, they'll see this profile. What is the graduation requirement of the school? And did you just meet the minimum, right? Successfully with a C grade or higher, or did you go beyond that, right? But you want to make sure you have that balance of that. So that's something that's really critical to look at, so, and a lot of times people think, well, I'm a freshman, I have plenty of time, but your specific school may have specific requirements. So you want to make sure, you really want to make sure that you're doing a schedule where you're producing the best grades, but also illustrating challenge. Sometimes I have students like, oh, I have to take every AP and no. You want to show your talent. I had a student get into a very selective school, did amazing stuff in her humanity classes, like her English, social science. Math was their struggle. They weren't engineer, computer science, or business major, so that helped. But they also did great things outside of the classroom and they still got into amazing schools. So how do I know? Like, isn't it just about the GPA? Yeah, it's the number one factor they look at. So we're going to look and we're going to show you an example. So what you're seeing on the image next to us, and we're going to play with it, is Niche. Niche is, I will want to let you know, is a company that if you use their services, like I try not to log into the account. This is not a logged in account here. And if you're wondering why I keep on looking down, I'm looking at two monitors, so my apologies on that. But here I could literally put in a name of a school. So just like I did before, right? So if I put in Davis on here, it will show me based on the kids that use the Niche program, what is the average GPA that students are getting into. So that's what the green are, and where some people are getting rejected. So you need to figure out, where am I going to do well, where I'm still challenging myself, but my grade performance is going to do well too, right? Getting those grades. Because especially for California students, if you're wanting to go to public universities, they're becoming more and more competitive. And here's the reason why. Our legislators, the people who make all the decisions, our government, are not budgeting that as a priority. So I'll tell you, this is, my soapbox now. Everyone should be involved in politics because it does impact you. So if you had an older sibling that went to college 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, it's a lot easier when they apply than there is now. And that's only because of budget cuts and spaces. So that's why it's really important to kind of know what are the minimum requirements, and then always what colleges are kind of striving for. But let's talk about this A to G. Now, some of you may be very familiar about A to G, and some of you may be, what is she talking about? So the public schools in California use this list called the A to G list. So let's look at one school, let's say, for example, Lincoln High School. And there's a lot, right? So that's why I use them. So you want people in San Francisco. So every high school in the city will basically submit their courses, say, hey, UC system, hey, Cal State. So that's San Francisco State, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, San Diego State, UC Berkeley, UCLA, UC, you get what I'm talking about, right? There's about 31 public schools on there. Did I do my math right? No, 32, sorry. And these are the only courses that they will honor for calculating your GPA. Now, if you kind of mess up a little bit ninth grade year, you may hear a rumor like ninth grade doesn't matter. It does matter, because if you got that D in English, you're going to have to make it up later on, because you have to still meet the course requirements, right? If you look back here, English was 4 years. I had a student that went to a school, they got a freshman class, art class, got a D. And you think art, no big deal. Well, really? Because here this says 1 year of art. They had to go to night school, then make sure that was on the A to G list while doing college application, financial aid, and scholarships just to make up that course. So it's really important to look at the whole picture. So they calculate grades starting 10th grade, only A to G, and they stop at 11th grade. Summer school 11th grade is the last one for any of the UCCSUs. However, though, it's really important they know that they look at all 4 years. Did you do them successfully 9th grade year? How many A to G? Seniors, did your A to Gs complete the minimum requirements that you see up here? And in addition to that, did those seniors, challenge themselves, right? If you're always getting A's in a subject and never taking an honors or AP, and if your school offers it, what's going on? If your school doesn't offer honors or AP, they do not penalize you on that. Okay. So the other thing is that's important to know is that it's really important to have connections with your 11th and 12th grade teachers. What am I talking about? Well, is just it to get the good grade? No, it's a little bit more than that. It's literally about making sure that they get to know you and so they can write about you. Yes, I'm talking about letter recommendations. So letter recommendations are coming from, they want your junior and 12th grade teachers. And you may think, wait, no, but my sophomore teacher loves me. And I'm like, yes, they could love you, but that's in the eyes of colleges a long time ago. They want to see what your performance is recently in only 4 classes: math, English, science, social science, and world languages. So you want to ask the teacher, and you usually don't look at that letter recommendation. It's confidential information where you waive your rights to viewing it to give it more weight. And the thing is, that letter recommendation can also be used for scholarships, other programs. And if you want to go to graduate school, those of you who want to be lawyers, doctors, you're going to have to get used to asking for letter recommendations. And I'll be honest, I tell my students, your recommendation is going to be good, but it's up to you to make it great. Let me get to know you. Let me talk about how you're trying to challenge yourself in a balanced nature, right? It's really important because I had a student literally the other day, a teacher says, you know what? They're so overly involved in everything that I can't write them a great letter recommendation because they're not doing the work that they're able to. And so that's why that you always will keep me hearing balance. It's something we all need to practice, whether young or old. But hey, if you're a 9th and 10th grader, I know you're out there because you're a superstar. Why are 9th and 10th grade teachers so great? Because they can recommend some cool programs for you. This is one of the programs some of our students get recommended from different schools, whether private, like the Architecture Foundation of San Francisco, where they do cool designs. I've had other students do bridge competitions with PG&E. Other teachers, hey, let's write a grant for Toshiba. Those are the things that are going to make you look, oh my God, they're doing great beyond the classroom. That's something that a letter grade won't say. And you can see like all these different schools that other students have participated in. So some real cool stuff. But you know what's really cool? That you're all late on, but not too late, is this thing called free community colleges. True story. I have a lot of kids, adore them all. They're my rock. And when my 8th grader finished school, I said, and he was one of those that, could do really well, in classes. It wasn't really hard. It's fairly easy. So what he did is he took some community colleges for free. And what he did was those became transferable to the college list. So we have 116 community colleges in the nation where you can go and take any classes. So this just gives you an example of all classes that students can take from Skyline to get transferable. Public schools in California love this because that means this is one less class you need to take. Again, you want to make sure this should only be for students who are doing well. If you're struggling a little bit in school, excuse me, it's hard to balance. You could do what's also called this concurrent enrollment during the summer. I do not recommend your first class to be math, English, or science because this is college level. I had someone take a math class. I said, I told you not to take math. They got to see. That means when they start college, it's a 2.0. But hey, if you get a B, the colleges will calculate it as a 4.0. So there's a lot of great opportunities there. And then what's another thing about grades? It is linked up. It's called AP exams. So most of your schools here in San Francisco offer what's known as AP examinations. Now, You may have heard that UCs and CSUs will no longer take the SAT or ACT test for admissions. It's only test free, but all colleges, UC, CSU, private or public, will all take AP exam results. So if you are a good tester, or even just a good student, if your school offers AP Human Geography, AP English Language, find out from your counselor at your school which AP exams, look at all of them, I write down here, that you could take it. Maybe you never took the class, but you're a native speaker in one of these languages. You can still take that AP exam if your school allows you to. There's also a program called UC Scouts, yes, from the UC system, that offers scholarship where you could take them online if your school does not offer that. So it's a great opportunity. So even if a school is test free or test optional, and you know you're pretty good on tests. I have some students who are not even that good on tests, but they got a 3. So the score is smallest is a 1 to a 5. Just remember, if you take it 12th grade year, it still helps to get college credit, but won't help in college admissions. But if you take it any time sooner, that'd be great. And you definitely want to check with your advisor. So some great opportunities. So don't underestimate that. And then testing. Okay. Remember I said take out your notes? So we're going to have to, because we have a lot jam-packed in a short amount of time. So we want you to understand what's happening in testing. Right now, seniors, so I'm going to talk to the seniors directly. There are 1,800 schools that are test optional. Pretty much it's just public schools in Florida, Georgia, University of Tennessee, military academies, MIT, Georgetown are the only schools that require SAT or the ACT test. Meaning you have to, otherwise an incomplete application. So what does that mean for the class of 2024, our juniors? Well, a majority of them are still going to remain test optional. There are a handful like University of Texas in Austin who have decided they are not going to be test optional next year. So you want it, remember I said about going to the college website, find out or email that rep, hey, when will you find if you're test optional next year? But I will say for the juniors, for most of you, for the class of 2024, it's all test optional. And here's the reason why. They've had record number of amazing students and campuses. And one of the key things that's really key as you're looking at all those things is that, you know, test option doesn't mean test disadvantage. It's just like, think of it, if I send in some poor test scores, then that's kind of like putting in like a poor letter recommendation to a school. That doesn't help you. Right? So if you know by now if you're a good tester or not. So if a school's test optional, just don't take the test. If you are a sophomore or 9th grader, you want to email the schools. Majority do not know the answer for the class of 25 or class of 26. So that's something you want to email them and find out, but focus on who you are. I remember I did this same summer presentation and a family says, well, my kid struggles in testing. So where's a tutor they should get? I'm like, stop. If they're not good in testing, focus on these other talents, right? Which we just mentioned, classes, community college. And then we have the other thing we're going to talk about too, that often students tend to overlook. And what is that thing? That thing is activities in you. So kind of decide on what you love to do, right? It may be a hobby where you're knitting and you decide to give things back for, like, you created a club for knitting and giving back to others. So that's something that, don't underestimate your hobbies as well. Maybe you're a self-learner, you like to learn about computers, right? But there's programs like Mission Bit, where it's another nonprofit that gives you technology access to learning about computers, or Tenderloin codes, right? There's so many other free programs that are opportunities for you. But again, it goes back to you. What do you love? And if you don't know what you love, well, find out some things, but don't overschedule yourself, right? Pick about a couple of different things to do. But a lot of times, I didn't know this was important, family responsibilities. I don't know about you, but my parents had to run their own business. And every morning before school, yes, I'll translate this, I'll type this out for you. I always had to write things out. I never thought that was important. Heck yeah, it's important. It helps me in so many ways now, helps also in so many other ways for the colleges to demonstrate my empathy and understanding of the world that a lot of people overlook. So when you look about volunteer opportunities, it's really important to kind of look at what are ways that you can give back. Your school may have a great list of volunteer opportunities, but here you could see, like, here is a volunteer match where they could give you like programs in teens and also various parts of the city as well too. So that's something that's really great. The thing is, it's not about, I've had a lot of students go, oh, I have 1,000 service hours. And then I'm like, okay, so what's the impact? Well, what do you mean? I volunteer here, 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 here. Okay, you're going to have to communicate to the colleges the impact you made in the community. I remember one student volunteer at St. Anthony's Diner. They started freshman year and they just continued with it. They didn't go into all these other fancy camps, this and that. And her essay was mainly about the people that she got to know over the 4 years. The stories, understanding the struggles, their strength, circumstances she'll never truly understand, but it was also something that was, the impact was mainly she felt it was for her versus for the people she was volunteering for. That said a lot. And also she got a huge merit scholarship too. Speaking of merit scholarships, and yes, every college application will ask you, maybe except for the Cal States, have you won any awards? Now, maybe your school give academics, and don't underestimate those activities award, but there are scholarships that you could start off freshman year. You see this picture over here? That Voice of Democracy is due this month, open for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Yes, you get up to $30,000 of free money. Yes. And here's scholarships.com. These are one of many scholarship programs. Just be careful of the scams out there, because there are a lot of people online who will take advantage of you. So make sure it's something that's recommended by a professional in the field, meaning your high school or college, nowhere else. Okay, because a lot of people.
Oh, amazing. Okay, I'm so glad. I wasn't able to see the questions before, but thank you so much for adding your questions. Oh, I'm so happy about that. All right, so there's a lot. Maybe let's start from the left to the right. So Ms. Vaccaro, if a student takes the SAT, ACT after the college application ended, can the student still send in their score?
This answer varies for each campus. If you're applying to some out-of-state public universities, now they're test optional and you don't get them in time, no problem. Cal States and UC do not take SAT or ACT tests. For out-of-state public schools, you do need to make sure that they're received by the deadline date. So sometimes test administration scores could take 2 to 4 weeks. So you want to send them in right away. Some schools, if you're applying early action, they have a November 1st deadline. Usually per the colleges, if you take a September, October test, maybe they'll get it in time, and rushing the scores does not help. It's pretty much just kind of batched all at the same time because of the processing. So just to reiterate, yes, if you already taken if you take the test at a later date, it's okay. But if it's early action, it should really be September, October test. If you're applying regular decision, December will be the last test. Again, only for those schools that are test optional or test required.
So I heard MIT will require SAT next year. Is that true? And will other colleges follow?
Yeah, so MIT does require it this year. So for fall 2023, will other colleges follow? So if you know Tony Stark, right? You know, he went to MIT. So if you know Big Bang Theory, those guys went to Caltech. And I went to Caltech literally, and I asked them, hey, so dude, are you going to follow what MIT? Exactly your question. And go, I'm quoting, we don't care what MIT does. It's based on our data. So what they're doing right now from Stanford to Caltech, not the UCs or Cal State, because they've done their research already, because they made a decision before lockdown. As they said, we're going to study to see how successful our test optional kids are. So the kids who submit with no test scores they're being followed to make sure not only are they doing well in school, but they also graduate. So that's why the class of 2024, schools are going to still remain test optional, but for class of 2025, 26 is a question mark. And that's going to be vary. So majority of schools are saying, hey, we love this. We're getting great applicants. Other ones, like we want to wait to see what the data is. You're going to get a mixed bag. And I know that's kind of hard, but you have to remember there are about over 13, well, God, you saw over 1,800 colleges that rate test optional. That's going to remain the same. I mean, we're only talking about maybe a handful of schools that will not be continuing being test optional. So email those colleges to find out. If you're class of 2024, most things are going to be the same, except there's a few, like I told you, like UT Austin is going to require the test. For the ones that do a lot more work is the class of 25 and 26. But test optional is here to stay. It's just a question is how many. Great question though.
Mm-hmm. And also just a clarifying question, because I know I have this question too when I was applying. Mm-hmm. When you say email colleges, do you what contact information do you mean? Like from the website or a specific counselor or?
Yeah, so every college website will have like admissions at the college name. So if you go to remember when we went to UC Santa Barbara, Clark University, or UC Santa Barbara, you go to the bottom of the screen, email us your questions. Sometimes you could DM them on Instagram, right? Or as we showed earlier, the Clark University, I could go ahead and I could just put in the search engine like college rep for California and it'll pop up. California's a big state, so sometimes I'll ask for your zip code in San Francisco. So that's really important to do. So you can always email them or use your school counselors to find out that information. But remember, I don't think I put the link on there, but I'll put it on right now on the chat. Fair Test updates that information. It's a nonprofit organization that who's been an advocate for test-free, test optional for many years.
How can parents support their children's college application process?
Great question. I think the goal is think about when your kid's in middle school and you're helping them their high school application, you're really their manager, right? Oh, let's look at this. Let's figure this out. When you're in high school, you really have to be their consultant. It has to be student driven. There's a reason why colleges, and I always tell parents, do not contact admission, but your student can. But I think you need to just check with them once a week, a day that they're okay with, and just maybe 10, no more than 30 minutes. How are your classes coming up there, a ninth grader? What are you doing inside or outside of the school that you enjoy, right? If you don't enjoy it, cut it off. Let's find something else. Let's email so-and-so if there's another program or call somebody else. And then you have to kind of check your back pocket and say, all right, to have an honest conversation with them, how much can you afford for school? Is probably, besides doing all the college applications and waiting for the results, one of the top things that students stress about is the financial aid. But if you can have some times okay, maybe I'll search for the scholarships, right? Let's find that one scholarship, once a month that you could apply to, whether you're a 9th, 10th, or 11th grader, or maybe I'll fill out the financial aid. Students, if you're out there and you're doing it all on your own, I see you. I truly feel you because I was there. Please make sure someone is helping you with that. Feel free to call the government for questions. Yes, there's a hotline called 1-800, the number 4, FED, FED, aid. Just to make sure they're not alone. And if parents, if you don't know, just encourage them to find someone who knows. And if someone closed the door and says, I don't know, or doesn't sound like they know what they're talking about, say, well, do they show you where to find this information? Even for my own students, I say, well, trust what's in black and white. That's really critical.
So moving on, can you explain what the FSA ID is?
Yeah, and I think that one, I'm going to pull it up right now so you could see it. So if you literally just type in FSA ID, you're going to come up with this screen over here. Hopefully you could see it, and Gabby will let me know if not. And that's all I put in there. And then you're going to create it. So this is a way to log into create an account to do your financial aid form. You do not have to wait till senior year. So you're not doing your financial, you're just creating the FSA ID. You could be a freshman, a sophomore, junior, but it's to fill out your financial aid forms. So this gives you all the information and insights. So I'll put this video and link on here. There's also extra videos on our YouTube channel that's available for you to getting that information. So FSA means the Federal Student Aid Identification. One parent must have it, one student. In order for you to fill out the FAFSA for your senior, you'll need to have that. But that is something you definitely do not want to share. So that's something that's really important not to do. Because it's your private Social Security information. Also, if you are undocumented, because I have undocumented students at my school, there is a program called California Dream Act that colleges do use as well.
Can you go over the specific components of a college application?
So this is the account Common App that goes to over 1,000 different schools. You could literally create an account on here, regardless of what grade level, and it'll roll over your information. You just don't want to enter any information for the college specific ones. So here, if you go to my Common App, you'll see that the colleges are looking at a lot of different information, right? For your, where you reside. So yeah, your zip code makes a difference. What type of resources do you have? Your demographic information. Now, do know there is a court case happening at the Supreme Court where they'll have a decision from February to as late as July, whether those private schools and some out-of-state public schools will still use affirmative action. Notice the languages that you speak, that's important. Also, the UC schools will ask that question. Where are you originating from, right? And then here's a good thing. Do know that applications do have fee waivers if there is a financial need. A lot of times they'll need it if it's for a private school. Your high school counselor that's assigned to you will need to approve that. UC's Cal State, you just need to meet that income situation. They'll also know like what your household makeup is, right? Because the bigger your house, a lot more activities. Being first gen is something also is a factor they'll look at. So why are they asking you all these information? Because you think like, well, it's just about grades. Like, no, it's a lot more than just grades and what your course is. And then guess what? You have a special program that you can put in here. So here's like a senior that has all their classes, but you're in a community-based program right now, right? The Charity Cultural Center, right? So that's something that if you're getting all this extra support, especially if you're competing for that scholarship, for all these other great opportunities that they offer, you could add that in here. And that says a lot about you, right? Because it means you're taking advantage. Look, it's Saturday afternoon and you're still here with me, though my video's going all crazy and everything. And then testing, if a school's test optional and you have, above average test scores for that school, that's why I showed you that scattergram that you could get from Niche easily, and it is in the chat area. You could put your scores on there, but really all colleges plus UCs and CSUs will look at your APs and see, I'm showing you right now, look at all the stuff that they're asking you, your activities, what you're involved in. Yes, you have to write essays. And it's not just one essay for all the schools. So when you become a senior, August 1st, you're going to add your colleges. Pretty much all these colleges have 1 to even sometimes 4 different essay questions that's specific to that campus. So it's a lot of different work. And if you don't believe me, here's Boston University. I'll blow it up so you can see a little bit better. So here that you see all these steps that you need to take. So it's a lot. So the sooner that you see this information, the better for you as well.
Does applying for financial aid influence students accepting rate into colleges or of the colleges?
Yes. So you need it. So if it's a public school in California outside, they're all what's called need blind, meaning they look at your admissions without you looking if you're applying for financial aid or not. Now, before I answer the second part for the private schools, if your family needs money and they don't have the $85,000 each year for 4 years, you need to apply for financial aid. It is what it is. I've seen too many horror stories that even though they're in their 30s are still impacted based on just trying to get into the school versus being, working smarter versus harder. But there are some schools that are what are called need blind. Where they'll accept you without looking at financial aid. And then there's many private schools that are need aware. And what does that mean? Like they're going to say, hey, is this family applying for financial aid? And if admitted, are they worth the investment, right? So it just varies on the financial aid process. But if you want to know, feel free feel free to email that college representative, but you don't need to do it for publics, only for the private schools.
Mm-hmm. So there's a question in the chat. The bank should be less than $5,000. This way, is there a way to get more grant?
So I'll address that in what's called, we'll talk about different grants, and let's talk about the grants that every Californian will get. And I'm trying to type it in here first to make sure I get it. So they're not just looking at, when they're looking at grants or need-based grants, it's looking at all the financial situations. So what I mean by that is they're going to be looking at, your assets, meaning, and I'm going to show you in the screen real quick, one moment. So here you should see the California State Aid Commission, right? So this is used for all the public schools and private schools in California. So they're looking at the whole picture. So some grants are based on your income, right? So if you're based on your family size and income, this is what your legislators decide on. And then if you meet this amount or lower, you get free tuition at UC for 4 years. Cal State's the same, but everybody apply for financial aid every year. If you meet this criteria for Cal Grant B, you get about over $1,600. And then year 2, 3, and 4, you get the amount of B and A. And for private schools, if you get Cal Grant A, you get almost $10,000. So I do know that sometimes families like, oh, let me hide this money or that, or it's not in this savings. So let me just make it very clear. Anything that's in the savings of the custodial parent, whether it's one or two, and the student, they are going to look at all savings, checking, asking cash at hand, your investments or stocks, right? And then also they will be asking your work income of, again, the custodial parent, like who they live with majority of the time. And that definition will change for the fall class of 2024 because there's all new changes for financial aid next year. And then they will also ask that same question for the students. So a lot of times people think it's just in the savings, but they'll look at everything. You do need to be careful too, because when you sign your FAFSA form for the federal government, it's saying that all this is a truth, no truth. Otherwise, and maybe I could, I don't know if it's on the worksheet, but it is on there if you read it, you could get fined $200,000 or worse. There's actually higher consequences. When I filled out my financial aid form, I didn't know what I was doing because my parents weren't paying for anything. I said, oh, I'm an independent student. I got a call August right before college year started. And they said, oh, you lied on your application. You lost all your financial aid. You need to pay everything up front. That was devastating just for an honest mistake from a teenager. That's what I'm saying. Make sure for everyone to use the resources, don't assume, and be very careful to try to be savvy about the situation, but they do look at the whole picture of all the assets. So that means income and also savings. So I hope I answered that question correctly.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for your question. Please keep sending more follow-up questions if you have any more, like in the chat, and we'll also answer them. So going to the next question, how do I choose the right college? And just under that, how do I choose the right major?
Great. I don't think I think my camera's a little bit going crazy again. I don't think there is any right. I think it's best fit, right? It's like, those fairy tale stories, right? I'm going to find that one and only. And, it's like, really? Is there only one and only? So when we went back and looked at, SCORE, right, which I did not put on the link, but I will, and then Gabby will send it out to you. You want to kind of think back, like look at your high school. What's working out really well for you, right? Think about the size of the classroom, the size of the campus, the social life of the campus, the life of the city, right? And then think about what you're willing to compromise. So sometimes students get really concerned about being a rural location. I'm like, okay, but can you compromise suburban? Because usually the schools that are closer to the city tend to be more expensive. Because as you guys know, the city is expensive. Any major city in the United States is. So that's something that you really want to kind of like reflect on. And then regarding about majors just get yourself out there and experience and learn about things. Again, the only majors you have to really kind of know about ahead of time is computer science. But if you don't like programming or putting things together, skip, right? Or if math's not your skill, like for engineers, you may be a great problem solver, but there's a lot of different type of problem solvers because you're going to be taking like 5 different type of calculus classes. Trust me, I saw my sister do it. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. But I think the thing is kind of and not to narrow your choices, right? To have a broad, because even if you're a senior right now and you have a college list this big, you know, in 6 months you're going to change, right? There's some people who go to college and they change their minds. Like, well, I followed the money and it was miserable. I know someone who went to a school that was an amazing scholarship opportunity, and that's all they did. They want to put a strain, but it was so big. It was so urban. Yeah. So urban in the sense of they needed really more of a community. So it was a hard adjustment on there. So again, look at your experiences now, where you're willing to challenge yourself and compromise. Use those search tools, right? And make sure you use also that data, the retention rate, the safety of the campus. How, are you okay if you're the only one, whether it's, you know, if you feel that way, whether if your gender, your ethnicity, your income, will the campus have my back, right? And there's going to be different degrees of all that of the schools. So kind of play pretend looking at that. Right now I have some seniors on here who are kind of really debating, hey, should I apply early decision, which is a binding agreement where if you get accepted, you have to go. And then I tell the student, well, just pretend, like play pretend, like if based on all your research, there's a great website called like ratemyprofessor.com where students rate the school and the professors, right? Even the social life. One person I was working with, we did that for one school and the school was so academically focused. She's like, I want to have a good time. And so, you know, so you have to do a lot of research, and that's why it's hard. So that's why having a balanced list, but again, it's best fit, but make sure it's not a tight fit. You want to make sure it grows, right? But you don't want to be too loose of a fit so you don't feel lost. So I know it's not a very black and white answer because it's a very individualized answer.
So from the chat, is there any website or ways to explore and find different majors?
Yes. So I kept saying I was going to share it, and my fingers are not fast enough. So right now there is that free tool called AppScore. If you want to create an account, it's also another application system that the coalition is merging. So you can look at all majors across the nation. If anything, there's too many. Then I also put on the chat on here. We didn't do it during the presentation, but College Scorecard is another one where you could put in the major on there as well. And then if you go to Big Future, and I'm typing it in right now, college4.org, it's the AP people, right, who make the advanced placement test. If you do the college search engine, they do a great tool of looking at not only majors, but also campus size. So all those 3 websites will be great tools for you to use.
Awesome. All right, so I think we'll extend Q&A session like 5 minutes more so that we can have more questions answered. So how do you get access to, so how do you get access to campus visits, and what time would you recommend starting to do campus visits?
Okay, I'm instead of me telling you, I'm going to show you. So bear with me for a moment. So I'm going to go back to the screen. So here is College Scorecard. So no, you won't find that information here, but I'm going to pick, let's say, let me go pick up a school. So let's pick something that's far away, right? So if I go, okay, so I'm going to put Boston University campus visit, right? And then I go visiting Boston University, right? And this is, I would do for any school, public, private, you name it. A lot of them are coming up with chat rooms as well. So what's an on-campus visit? So on-campus basically is an opportunity where you visit the campus in person. Try to do it if it's a school that's seasonal, meaning it snows, there's heat waves, it's not California, I would do it in the cold season, right? So you want to make sure to do it during there because you want to make sure they're okay. Like I had a student who went to a school in Minnesota and has amazing internships. The student won so much scholarship money going to that school. But they're saying like, but the snow could get a little bit depressing for some people. And there's others who love it and who've never even skied, right? But there's also virtual. So public and private schools are doing that. So you can learn about the colleges, the programs. So sometimes even for me, like I'm washing the dishes and I'm researching, looking at that stuff. But it's important that it's not just the parent doing it, the student needs to do it too. And not just the big name hard schools. Like Boston University is really competitive. Like right down the block from them is Northeastern. It's 9% admissions rate. So you want to really make sure that you have a good variety of different campuses that you could check out as well too.
Awesome. So can you share the recorded webinar? Yes, I will be sharing the presentation slides to you as well as this webinar once it's recorded and edited. So thank you for asking that question. How many times can students take part in SAT? Are 3 times or 4 times still okay? I know this was a concern.
No. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. I thought you were done, Gabby.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, I also had this concern too when I was a high school student.
So Gabby, I don't know if you remember the answer I gave you, but, and this is from the College Board and Colleges and NACAC, which kind of is a governance for all different colleges and university and high schools. You know, a student, if they are a good tester or they're applying to a school that requires the test, doesn't make sense if you're not a good tester to do all that work if it's a test optional school. Definitely once, you know that answer. Okay, twice. Only 3 times if there's really something significantly different. Usually the test difference is statistically not that much. 3 or 4 is a lot. 4 is way too much on there. And if you think about it, there is a history of a lot of people who have focused on the test. College admission has changed dramatically since the pandemic, and that has not changed. In a sense, it's different. So if you have other neighbors and stuff, I cannot stress it enough. It is very, very different. It's more complicated. It's a lot more challenging, but it's also a lot more access than before. So again, to simplify it, 2, only 3 if there's like a significant reason, like they took it when they had a big fever, which they should have never taken it, or they weren't feeling too well, or they had to wait, or they overslept, so they weren't rested. But definitely limit that. And that should only be people taking the test if the test is required or if they're really good standardized tests, because test scores that are not above average for a test optional school will hurt the student in the admissions process.
Thank you for sharing that. So if I have a sibling that might have a FSA ID already, what should I do? Do I still get the aid?
No, so you're one step ahead. So you have your FSA ID, but for your other child, that child needs to create the FSA ID, not to share it. But now that you're a pro on that, make sure to check all these new changes. And I'm glad that we have a question. Like I mentioned, under the previous presidential administration, they made changes to the financial aid form that's going to start fall of 2024. So yes, you juniors and younger. So there only will count for need of one. They're only kind of one student of need for going to college. Like I told you earlier, I have 3. So right now, financially, I would notice, there's a greater need. There's 3 in college. If I'm in that same situation in 2 years, they're only going to represent that as 1, regarding about who's the custodial parent, reporting if you have a business. Nothing is laid out on the forms. A lot of colleges are struggling with all the changes on the link. All the schools like the UCs, Cal States, the schools that only require the FAFSA form, those schools are going to have the biggest impact with all the new changes that the previous presidential administration approved with the legislators at the time. The schools that I put in the link called the CSS profile, and I'll put a better one. There's 400 schools that look at this, look at everything of the family, all assets. Those schools, because they calculate their own index, are not going to be as impacted because they have more of a choice. There's colleges that only use FAFSA only have to follow the guidelines because that's what our legislators vote on, and that's why being involved in politics. So for anyone who is going to have a younger sibling going to be in college with them at the same time, that's a very big important question for your family to ask. And remember, parents and guardians and students though too, you can always contact the financial aid office. Yes, parents at any time can contact financial aid. It's only students for the admissions office.
Thank you. Also, Ms. Vaccaro, I'm not sure if it's just me hearing this. I think maybe like your camera or voice is like lagging just a bit. I'm not sure if that's something to do with like Wi-Fi or I also tried maybe like I will mute myself and stop my video if that helps as well. But
okay, thank you for letting me know that. I'll do my best. I'll see what's going on my end. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. So moving on to our last couple questions. If SCT/ACT are not required for the UCs, would you recommend the students taking it, assuming if the students feel confident in testing?
Oh, I love how you worded that. So yeah, so if a student is confident as a standardized test taker, yeah, go ahead, take the test. Don't feel like you need to prepare. Just take it because it's a state public school. A majority of my students, both at my high school and the CBO I work at, are not, but they're focusing on their leadership roles, showing like how they are great, and they're taking community college. They're transferable, and they're taking AP results.
What time does each college application open?
So they open up, so get your paper and pencils ready. It's a different answer for all of them. Basically, they open up August 1st for the UCs. Cal State's open October 1st. And then for most of the other schools that are on Common App or out of state public schools, they open up August 1st as well. There are a few, like University of Washington, don't open up till September 1st.
And you all can also, if you all go to the college websites as well, they'll tell you that information as well. So the last question would be, do you help students apply for colleges if they're not SI students?
I help students who are at St. Ignatius and also at First Tee of San Francisco, and then always open to doing more presentations.
Mm-hmm. I know we all wish we had a Ms. Vaccaro ready on our side.
I don't think my dad would say that.
Oh my gosh, no, I definitely. For all of you who know, all of you guys are high school students. I totally feel that the importance of having such a great mentor, and Ms. Vaccaro has definitely been one for me when I was applying as a student. So I hope this presentation was able to give you some information and inspiration as well about applying. All right, so we're coming to the end of our Q&A session. And lastly, just send me more questions and I'll try to help you get them answered if you have any after this presentation. But don't worry, because we'll be sending you all the links, presentation slides, etc. So for our closing remarks, I just want to once again plug Ms. Vaccaro's free college resources. She has a podcast you can listen to. She talks to students who are already in college about their experiences with more college field experts. So if you want to hear those conversations from actual students who go to college who are her previous students, you can go listen to those conversations. She has social media pages at College4All ANV. And lastly, I just want to click on and show you this College4All website. Because if you all are interested in looking at resources, there's free test prep, links. You can look at the College4All, Meet My Professor, all of these college information databases where if you want to look up colleges, teachers, ratings of different information about what you can get about colleges like social life, academics, etc. They're all basically on this page, which Ms. Vaccaro created, which is so awesome of her. Also a section on Common App, Coalition, just so much information. So I really recommend you all to go to that website, which I'll be sending as well as we'll be sending this video of this presentation. So just to go over what I'll be sending you, I'm going to be sending you an email with an event feedback form and a mailing list sign up if you want to be, learning about the FIT program events that are going to be happening for the rest of the year. And also please fill out the feedback form. I'm going to put the link in the chat because it'll really help us with seeing if this is a helpful workshop for you, what we can improve, what you're interested in, etc. So please fill out this form. If you're interested in the FIT High School Scholarship, I'm going to be sending out the info flyer in English and Chinese, and please sign up if you're interested by October 31st, the end of this month. And the deadline and the registration is first come, first serve. So I recommend you to sign up right away if you're interested. We also have the baking class and volunteer event if you want to get some volunteer hours and learn how to bake delicious treats. I'll be sending the info flyer and the link for that as well. And I also just want to encourage you all to stay tuned with FIT because we have a lot of exciting events coming up, more workshops and events in Cantonese. And we have a lot of fun community event ideas such as hosting AAPI community nights, where we're going to be playing titles with the AAPI or immigrant such as Everything Everywhere All at Once, Shang-Chi, and any more recommendations you have. So please stay tuned with us for more exciting events. Lastly, you can contact me, the FIT Program Coordinator. My name is Gabrielle. Or if you have any questions, maybe from your parents or yourself, in Mandarin or Cantonese, you can contact Ms. Cecilia Liang for any questions. So that comes to the end of our presentation. Thank you so much, everyone. Please feel free to check out our website, but I'll actually stop the recording here. Thank you so much for coming. We're so grateful that you're here, and we look forward to seeing you at more events. Thank you so much.